Hey guys, George here, and I wish my theme song was "It's a beautiful day in my neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in my neighborhood. Won't you come out and play? It's a rainy day. I'm stuck indoors." One of my opponents is a tussle at the Tundra. It's a great tournament. I wish everybody there good luck. And another opponent of mine is out in New Brunswick chasing chickens in the rain, I suppose. If not, maybe his cats are doing that for him. Dennis, shout out to you, buddy. Anyway, before I go any further, on a serious note, our thoughts and prayers to the folks at Maui. And let's get on with the show. Yeah. So today what I'd like to do is an analysis of starter kit scenario S1488 of the ZON. You know, starter kit is always a great break from the advanced game, going back to just look at pure tactics alone. However, we're not going to analyze the scenario from a purely tactical perspective, because what I'd like to do is incorporate Jim Bishop's axioms. Now, I'm not sure if I should attribute them to Jim Bishop. I certainly would, because based on his blog article, um, I would seem that this sort of analysis would be attributed to him. I kind of came across the same sort of method of not analyzing um, my strategy, you know, and you know what they say: good minds think alike, or fools seldom differ. Anywho, so Jim Bishop's axioms, and I believe I've given you a link to his blog before, and if you want a link to his blog, I'll certainly put it in a pinned comment below, or if I don't, put it in the description. Let me know. There are four axioms. First, it's the victory conditions, knowing the victory conditions. Two, the terrain, in terms of how it can afford you cover. And two, how it can facilitate your arriving to your objective or delaying you. Three, time. And four is knowing your order of battle. So with no further ado, when we look at scenario 14, we'll zoom in on the victory conditions. I'm not going to give you a copy of the scenario card, you know, but um, we will look at the all the components of the scenario in great detail. So scenario 14, 88 at ZON, September 14th, 1944, ZON, Holland. The victory conditions are: the American player wins immediately upon exiting 7 or more victory points off the south edge on between F0 and L0. Each squad is worth 2 victory points. Each half squad is worth 1. Each negative 2 SMC is worth 3. And minus 1 SMC is worth 2 victory points. Each negative 0 and plus 2 SMC is worth 1 victory point. And the reason why they give you in those victory conditions the 0 and the 2 is because conceivably your higher ranking leaders, or your higher, astute leaders, can conceivably be a liar. I don't like to attribute leadership to rank. You could have an excellent a sergeant with excellent leadership skills, and a major or a captain that is the exact opposite. So I just don't attribute rank and leadership um, together. So what does that mean? Let's look at our OB, and right off the bat, this fellow here that enters on turn 2, let's zoom in on him. This 9 minus 2 leader, which I call Yossarian, okay, Yossarian here, he's worth 3. Each squad here is worth 2. So you got 2, 4, plus 3 is 7. As opposed to if you do not manage to get Yossarian as one of the people exiting the board, right? What happens is you need 2, 4, 6 plus either another leader or a squad or a half squad to um, get you victory. So, in other words, this fellow here is the joker of whether you can win or not. And if you can get him off the board intact, that's 3 victory points, and you only need 2 more squads or 4 half squads to win. So you got to be mindful of how you're going to use Osirian down here. So the important element to keep in the back of your mind when you're playing the scenario, of course, is the victory conditions are exiting. You need to exit. You need to skedaddle. By the way, these are public source, open source pictures you can rarely get from the Wikipedia. I just put them in Word. So um, we're using Word and Excel and looking at Vassal, all to do our analysis. Skedaddle. So it's not how many casualty victory points you have. It is not how well you roll. It's not about how many Germans bought the farm. It's about achieving a victory condition, meaning you need to exit. And here comes where the terrain comes into the picture. Is you need exactly to exit off the, I believe, the south edge. Yep, the south edge. Uh, in between, on or in between L0 and F0, which is uh, a short runway, and it's protected by only two or three woods. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit here. So that is the first axiom is victory. The second axiom, let's move things out of the way, is terrain. And in terms of terrain, what I did is I did a little uh, table here, and you got 10 hexes from top to bottom. So you're entering, the first wave enters in between Echo 10 and Hotel 10, which is Strayer here, 4 squads and a bazooka. So right off the bat, let's put them on just off the board here. Okay. Let's just put them not anywhere. We're just putting them uh, between each hex. We're not stacking. And I am not saying don't stack, don't stack, don't stack, don't stack, don't stack. What I'm saying is uh, let's see the best and worst case scenario as to which route they can take and would lead them to to victory. Right? Right. Okay. Now, best case scenario is that with a leader, they'll take at least um, they'll take at least 2 turns to get off the board, not taking CX aside. Okay. Well, with CX, you might be able to shorten that distance, but with a leader, it would take 2 turns, and without a leader, I'm estimating that you got 4. That's 1 turn, 8, 2 turns, and the third turn will be your deciding factor. Providing you don't engage at all in any combat, and you have one movement factor to move from one end of the board to the other. However, you don't, and number 2, you will encounter a German player that will try to prevent you from achieving your goal, and will try to engage you in a firefight that will delay you. They will try and skulk. So let's take a look at the best case and worst case scenario here. Coca-Cola, zero sugar, zero sugar. Well, it says zero sugar, zero sucre. All access pass, Coke Studio. We got things printed up here in French and English. It's great. I like diversity. linguistic diversity. So let's put these guys up here and see what we can do. And we'll just do each path here. And there's no bypass movement in this starter kit game, which is again, um, pure tactics. All right, and let's just run them down the board. Okay. All right, without going CX. So in this case here, we got 1.5, 3. You can't go to the next one. All right, and then we have here 1, 2.5, and then 4. Yeah. Here we have 2 because we're going to higher elevation. 3 and 4. Now, of course, you're running over open ground, and a German may want to cover this high ground by virtue of having a squad here, which, since there's no height advantage, they will be able to get a -2 shot on you. So you got to think twice about that route, I suppose. Or do you? Or do you? I mean, that's a high risk maneuver. It will get you the furthest, right? Um, but it also can end up cutting you down, either entirely or half squatting you. And then over here, you would have 2, 4, 2 for the woods, 4 for high, another 2 for higher elevation makes a total of 4, 5, and 6. Um, so obviously, well, it's not so obvious, but um, the ideal situation, I would say, um, is going through the wheat field, I suppose, and trying to get this ground here. Um, that doesn't get you too far. And let's continue with the little route here. So next turn would be a half. 1, 2, 3. And I went there because it would cost a, quite a pretty penny to go up into the higher elevation building. Here we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to there. We're saying we're not going CX. Already I've used 2 turns up. Uh, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. And then here would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So using your leaders can help you immensely. So 1, 2, 3 or 4 turns to get down here from this direction here. And you may want to um, divert or think twice before going through the wheat field, because capturing a building might be difficult, a stone building apart from that, and then you have all this open ground in front of you. Or you could say that, oh, the German player probably didn't defend that um, area in Kesawasara. Now here, what you do have on the second wave is you do have a predominantly superior force in terms of firepower. And your 9-2 leader, and Mr. Winters here, and an MMG, and a bazooka that can fire at buildings and lay waste to a couple of people. Now, you might consider doing this, coming in through here with your best order leaders. You know? And what do we got here? What do we got here? We got, okay. You, you might want to do this. Look, 1, 5. And then 1 plus 4 is 5. Now, with your best ordered leaders and a -1 leadership diagram and a -2 leadership diagram, unless they get a lucky shot on you, chances are you're probably going to survive most attacks, most German attacks. Unless they have the AA gun all the way up front. And we'll talk about the Germans in a little jiffy. You can assault move into there, or you can do a non-assault movement just to try and get smoke in this hex, and then depending on whether, well, depending on how the German player is set up, and you can go 2-4 CX, and then boom, boom. If he can't see you through the smoke, you're running and you're happy. Now we kind of left out the advanced phase, but when these two uh, folks fire group, you have a -1 leader here and -2 leader here. They can fire group and still get the advantage of the lower rated leader here, right? And fire at any target that might be here at, you got here 14 plus 14 plus 4 is 15. So you got 20 firepower factors here. You can lay waste to them really easily. So that is something that should be on the mind of the defender, is that the fact that the Americans have superior firepower factors. Also, in a close combat situation, when the American squad goes into close combat uh, with the German squad, right off the bat, the Americans have 1-1 and 1-2 ambush aside, 1-2 for the Germans. Still plays a big difference. So here we have a situation where the American player is aided, but also held back with the terrain. Yeah. So that's one aspect of, of terrain, is that it will impede your move. It will provide you with protective cover. However, it also provides protective cover for the Germans. So let's put these guys back here for now. They were somewhere like this. By the way, on a side note, I was checking out the ASL site from out west in Canada called Advanced Squad Leader Spotting Rounds. And the fellow recently acquired 3 different items for Advanced Squad Leader, 3 different packages, a gift from his son. Terrific son. I'm pretty proud of my boys as well. Um, and one of them made his own squad leader paraphernalia counter, which is pretty awesome. And by the way, I've also made 3 phase wheels, by the way, so far. And um, uh, you'll see on Saturday morning, I have I tried to make a video on air support, and I saw his video after the fact. He bought Frank Tidur number 14, and inside that magazine, there was an article about air support. Gee willikers, I wish I had that article before making this video. I am sure, my other fellow ASL brother, he should not be discouraged from making an air support video. I'm definitely going to watch it. I'm going to be looking forward to it, and he will have the in-depth knowledge of that magazine from Frank de number 14. Um, I gotta thank him for doing that video and opening up those pages, and I wish I knew that content was there before. But advanced squad leader uh, uh, reading material, it cannot be readily, and the modules cannot readily be found on the stores. And other than that, on eBay, I gotta call a spade a spade. those prices are cutthroat prices. There's no way I would pay $400 for Doom Battalions or Armies of Oblivion or $600 for Comfort Group Piper. Uh, Simply can't afford that these days, you know. So anyway, look out for his video. Definitely watch mine. Let's get back to business here. Let's look at the Germans. So let's put Strayer back in here. Let's put Winters and Yossarian down here. Good old American GIs. Armed to the teeth. And let's take a look at the Germans. What do the Germans uh, have that we don't have? Let's look at the terrain. Again, obviously, in order for these fellows to win, they need to cut down the Americans, chop them down to size. And let's take a look at the strategic locations on the map, or the tactical locations that afford the German player a good tactical advantage. And number one, let's zoom in on the map, go into the storage. CL6, that's a wonderful location. So that's a good place to put a 467, an LMG, and an 8-1 liter Trotsky. Okay? What does that mean? All right. This fellow tries to come in through the woods here and try to gain a tactical advantage by going to building K9. The moment he's in the woods, leader directed fire with the LMG, it's a 2 even shot, right? Actually, 2 down 1. He's coming around, he's declaring non-assault movement and probably CX. So 2 to there, 4 to there. So the modifiers are +1 for the woods, 10, -1 for first fire non-assault movement. That evens it out, flattens it out. Leader directed LMG, -1 leader, 2 down 1. Let's take that try and see what happens. I don't cower, but I don't cower because it's leader directed, and I get 7 on, no, yeah, I get 7, 4 plus 3. 7 on the 4. Is that enough to do something? It's just a pin toss check, right? Let's roll it. Toss check. He passes, but I still end up getting, it was a 2, I still end up getting a 1 residual in there, okay? Because I didn't get great. Now, the subsequent shot he first fired, support weapon. The subsequent shot will be in case he tries to cross the road here. I can use my inherent firepower. So if he's going CX and he's going 2, 4, 5, 6, suppose he's with a leader, 6, 7, maybe 8, you can cut him down here, and you can cut him down there. So he is covering like a fork in the road. An important intersection. So covering the intersections, good idea. Let's put Winters back. Okay. Let's zoom out a little bit more. I didn't fill out this this chart, but I put the green line here to represent 4. At 4 movement factors, there's a turn change, and at 6 with a leader. So just visually, you can picture that you need at least two turns, 2 or 3 turns to get into a good position to exit the board. You got to keep that in mind when you're firing on these guys. Yeah, the 447s, and you cannot go beyond hex row 7. So let's put the 467s, for example, here and here, so they can cover good ground. You got 3 leaders, which is great, and you can keep 1 in the rear. So in this game, there are no prisoners, and they can route back. They can low crawl back to Wiltz. Wiltz can rally them and make a difference in the end. Okay. 237, put him in a location where he can make a difference. Okay. And the 447s, put them in situations where they can skulk and also provide additional cover. Seeing a 7 or an 8 hex, 7 hex. That's an 8 hex. Yeah. There you go. I haven't put everybody on the board. And the guns, important thing about the guns is, I believe even in this game, they start up hip. Now, you may be tempted to put the guns in a building. And that is, uh, it's not encouraged because if you put a gun in the woods, okay, or in a building, what happens is the modifier for changing the covered arc is um, doubled. Okay, they keep concealment because they're in concealment terrain, provided they don't roll a 5 or 6 on the colored die. But there is no cumulative TEM for being in a building. There's only a detriment because changing your covered arc will make your to hit roll unless you get rate. And once you change covered arc, your rate goes from 2 to 1. Um, More difficult. Now, what I do recommend in terms of terrain is putting them in orchards, if possible. So, in orchards, you got to keep in mind that orchards, I'm not sure if they specify that. They should specify that in the beginning of the index of the rulebook, that orchards are concealment terrain. So, this fellow does not lose concealment unless he rolls a 5 or 6 on the colored die. He can rotate without detriment to his 2 hit roll, and he can subsequently, even in this position, he can subsequently uh, be in a position to hit the enemy, uh, you know, um, hit the enemy without missing. And the other thing you need to keep in mind is you got to put the guns in a place where the American cannot exert a firepower attack and a fire group attack and blow you up. Because as we said before, um, these guys do have a morale of 8, but then if somehow the Americans establish a fire group, right there, just 2 squads, you got a 12 attack. If you got 2 leaders, right, he does get a plus, ordinary a +2 for being in place, but the leadership DRMs uh, can combine in this case with the lowest DRM applicable, and there goes your 12 up 2 attack to a 12 up 1 attack. Now, the other thing I wasn't sure of is do these babies have smoke? In the advanced game, they do have smoke. Uh, I didn't see anywhere in the rule book stating that bazookas do have smoke. But even if they don't have smoke, if you put the bazookas in woods so they don't have to incur backblast as opposed to buildings, you can easily get um, a nice 8 even attack on these guys. Let's flip them over. At 2 hex range, you got 8 to hit. The 2 hit DRM can be modified by leadership DRM. So if you got a -2 leader with the bazooka, okay, and a squad, let's do this example, okay? All right, they're 2 hexes away. You got a nice juicy stack of Germans in here, okay? And add 2 hex, let's move in there. Add 2 hexes away, all right? Now since I'm firing from the woods, uh, I don't have to worry about backblast and adding a +2 to my dice roll. But it's base 8, okay, +3 for the uh, building, and -2 for my leadership theorem. That makes it a 7 to hit, right? 3 minus, oops, 3 minus 2 is 1. They say 7 to hit. Let's try that to hit. 7. It's an average shot. Okay, now we got an 8 even shot on the 8. 8 on the 8. Let's see what happens. Oh, darn. Can't win them all. Anywho, 31 minutes into the video. And I think overall we kind of looked at the victory conditions, we looked at the terrain, we looked at the time, which is 5.5 turns, and we looked at the OB and the strengths and weaknesses of each side. Now, with that analysis done, I would suggest that you play the game solo for a couple of times if you really want to up your game, especially before a tournament. And going in there, I'm sure you'll win. And in closing, what I'd like to say is that this show was brought to you by the number 14 and the letter A. A for assault fire, 2 for advanced phase, 3 for advancing fire. So what does this have to do with anything in this, in with respect to this scenario, and versus Sesame Street? All right, I used to like that those episodes when they used to close the episodes of Sesame Street. This episode was brought to you by the letter E and the number 6. Yay! So such innocent times. Well, um, so this is what it has to do with this scenario. First and foremost, the important factor is that underlying 7 firepower factors means these guys have assault fire. So you got an advantage at firing in the advancing fire phase after you moved as opposed to prep firing. And if you prep fire in this game for 2 turns, 1, you're risking it. 2 turns, you're done for, especially if the German player gets lucky. You use that advancing fire to your advantage. Knock them out. So these are actually the keys to winning the scenario. Assault fire, as just discussed. Advance phase, always advance, especially if you're good in good order. And advancing fire is when you should fire. Guys, take care. Uh, be happy. Roll low. And I wish all of you the best of luck. Like Churchill said, the folks on the Titanic all had wealth and health, but they weren't lucky. Be lucky. Take care, and I'll see you next time.